third installment of the Bad Boys franchise, which sees Will Smith and Martin Lawrence reunite as mismatched detectives Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett. In this film, we see our two heroes take on the leader of a newly formed Miami drug cartel with the assistance of a newly formed tactical unit called Ammo. I recently reviewed the two previous Bad Boys films to coincide with the release of the third film, and Bad Boys 2 was not my favourite, and my hope for Bad Boys 3 was that it would deliver and be much better than its predecessor. Bad Boys 3 takes place 17 years after Bad Boys 2. And we see our characters have gotten older, but more importantly than that, from a production standpoint, we get a new director. We get two new directors. A new director will bring with it a new vision and a new set of ideas in terms of where they want to take the storyline. Now, when you get a new director coming on board, it can either go one of two ways. It can either be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. A, they can bring new life to the franchise and take it to a new direction, like Christopher McQuarrie did with Mission Impossible 5 or 6. Or it can go another way, where a director may not understand the franchise and it can just send it to an all-time low, like what's happened with the Terminator films. Having seen Bad Boys for Life, I can honestly say that the producers have learnt from their mistakes of the second film, and they have given us a film that is thoroughly entertaining, very funny, action-packed, loaded with brilliant performances, loaded with touching performances, has got a great storyline, and I can easily say that this film is the best installment in the Bad Boys franchise. This film nods to the first film, and there are so many references to the first film, namely that this film, Burnett and Mike Lowrey said that they've been partners for 25 years. 25 years after the first Bad Boys film. They use Mark Mancini's score for the Bad Boys theme. We see Mike Lowrey driving a Porsche, which he drove in the first film. There are also some surprises in this film in terms of characters that appeared in the second film popping up in this film, but I won't tell you who. What makes Bad Boys for Life so entertaining and makes this film feel different in tone to the previous films is in the fact that the writers have acknowledged that these characters have gotten older and they are not as young as they once were. They cannot keep doing this forever. They have acknowledged their own mortality, and they acknowledge that this lifestyle, they have to get out of it at some point. And it is that arc of the storyline which makes some brilliant performances, some really touching performances, and some good comedic moments as well. Bad Boys for Life, when I was watching it, it reminded me a lot of Expendables 3, where we see, in the Expendables 3, we see Sylvester Stallone's character leave his old team, recruit a new bunch of guys who are technically savvy, more physically fit, more proficient with weapons and fight training to take out Mel Gibson's character. In Bad Boys for Life, we see the same thing, where we see Marcus and Mike team up with this team called Ammo. And it was a case of the younger guys schooling the older guys and vice versa, and it made for some really good entertaining banter between the two. Acting wise, I think Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were the best they've been in this franchise. The humor, the cohesiveness, the banter was so on point and so much better than when it was in Bad Boys 2. Martin Lawrence was a pleasant surprise for me because for him, you don't really think of him much as an actor, more of a comedian, but in this film he got to act. He got to deliver some really emotional lines and some really emotional dialogue. And he was the funniest he has ever been in this film. Very funny, very charismatic, and the one-liners and his jokes all hit the mark. And with Will Smith's character as well, we got a different form of Mike Lowrey, one who's more emotional. We get to learn a lot more about Mike and his background that wasn't explained in previous films. And again, these two were just magnetic. One particular scene that was funny was where Mike used a particular slang word that someone younger would have used, and Marcus checked him on it. Purely because he knew that, you know what, we're not as young as we once were. And this Bad Boys film is more personal than previous films. And the narrative of this film was a pleasant surprise. There were certain scenes where this film went that I didn't expect. And that's a good thing, because as a film goer, you don't want to know what's going to happen before it happens. You want to be pleasantly surprised. And there were some pleasant surprises in this film. And there were some shocking surprises in this film. And I was like, wow, didn't see that coming at all. But it all adds to the narrative, and it all works beautifully within the narrative. The action sequences in this film are handled competently. The directors of this film, Adil El Farbi and Bilal Fallah, they've constructed some really great set pieces in this film. And whilst they may not be as high octane as what Michael Bay would have done, and again, that feeds into what I was saying earlier about when a different director comes over, the set pieces are exhilarating. And there is more than enough in this film to keep the cinema goer entertained. There is a signature shot that Michael Bay has used in previous Bad Boys films where we see the slow motion 180 rotation from the back and it catches the characters in the front, which was a real nice acknowledgement to the previous Bad Boys films and a nice nod to Michael Bay. And this film is 2 hours and 4 minutes. And it doesn't drag. Unlike Bad Boys 2, which was 2 hours and 24 minutes, the film flows consistently, it flows beautifully, and it's an entertaining watch from start to finish. And again, I'll say it again, this is the best installment in the Bad Boys franchise. And we're now going to be getting a Bad Boys 4, which is currently in development. And I hope they don't leave it too long. And I hope that Bad Boys 4 goes the way of Live Free and Die Hard, Die Hard 4, which is just as entertaining, and it follows that trajectory of being an entertaining watch, as opposed to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which wasn't that entertaining at all and was quite disappointing. But Bad Boys for Life knocked it out of the park. All my hopes were confirmed. Bad Boys for Life has done for this franchise what Thor Ragnarok did for Thor, and what Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade did for the Indiana Jones films, where you had one good film, you had a second film which was a misstep, then the third film knocked it out of the park. Great performances all around. Job well done to Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and this is one that I will definitely be getting on DVD when it comes out. So I'll give this film a very strong 9 out of 10. Best in the series thus far. So folks, that's my review. Have you seen Bad Boys for Life? Leave a comment on what you thought about it. What is your favourite Bad Boys film? Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button, because there'll be more content coming along. And I shall see you on the next film review. Take care.